Welcome to another money morning routine. Okay, the first thing I was going to do is I had no spending come out of my checking account. So I do know I had some cash spending because we ate out yesterday. It's like one of those things. It's right before vacation. But I know my receipt's in my purse, but I know I spent it from my food. So let me go ahead and count this. $4.57 is what I have. So let me write that down on my food envelope. So $4.57 is what I have to spend for food. And yesterday was $12.04. We went to Noodle Express. This is $9.57, not $4.57. $8.57. $8.57. Let me double check. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, $8.57. I spent $43 at Noodle, so $8.57 left. I spent $43, so I have it updated on my food envelope now. Remember, I saw $5 bill, so I'm going to add that to my $5 challenge. So let's write that down. 12, 5, $5 challenge minus 5 leaves me with $8.52. Okay, so I'm going to add this to my $5 challenge jar, put this back. Now I have an updated balance of how much to spend in my food category on my envelope. Okay, that's for my information in the moment when I'm actually spending the money. Let's go over here and write it on my expense tracker. So when I close out my budget, it's there. So 12.4. Okay, so now that's been updated. So both checking account and cash spending have been updated. Okay, here's the next thing that I want to talk about is I am working on my worksheets in the beginning or front of my budget by paycheck workbook. Now, if you are just starting the budget by paycheck method, the very first thing that you want to fill out and really figure out before the new year starts is finding your why. This worksheet's going to help you do that. This is step number 1. I don't want anyone to start my method without doing this step first. This is by far one of the most important steps you will do and figure out on my method. And guess what? Your why will probably change as you go along your journey. But before you dive into the workbook, this page may not seem that important to you when you're looking at the rest of the worksheets, but this is probably one of the most important worksheets you can fill out and accomplish and complete before going into the new year and before starting your budget by paycheck workbook. The next thing that I am working on, and what I was working on today, was my financial plan. Now I want to talk over this very quickly. Now, of course, I already solidified my sinking funds and what that's going to look like in my life. In fact, if you go to the back of my workbook, I have that right here. These are all the sinking funds that I'm saving for in my life. I already solidified those. I already know what those are going to be. And I decided also that all of my sinking funds will be not using cash. They're going to be just doing online transfers. So I have a bank at a credit union that allows me to have as many savings accounts as I want with no minimums, no fees. I can color code them. I can organize them. I can title them. It's amazing. It's just a little bit of a change of the way I'm spending my money that I noticed that will just be easier for me to keep those in savings accounts and just do online transfers into my checking account once I use those. So with that being said, I will still be saving $100 a month for my hay purchases. That's going to be in cash. But as far as the rest, I believe I'm going to be doing, now things can change. It's not December yet, right? So besides those sinking funds, here are some financial goals that I was kind of just writing down today. Short-term goals, anything within 1 year. Okay, so I started thinking, what trips do we know for a fact are happening next year? I want to start now. Also, how much I have left in my vacation savings depends on how this Switzerland trip goes. I do have a budget for Switzerland. You can see that in my December budget, but essentially we're doing Yellowstone and Arizona next year for sure. Now, Yellowstone's already booked. That being, I booked it, Chris and I booked it last year because if you want to stay in the park, like at one of the hotels in the park, they book out like 2 years early. So we booked it knowing we wanted to do that for our wedding anniversary trip. That's right. We're going to be taking a wedding anniversary trip. We are bringing Dante. So we went ahead and solidified and booked the hotel. They only make you pay for one of the nights. We're going for 6 nights, 7 days. They only make you pay for one of the nights to reserve your entire stay. So we ended up paying, it was like $282 out of our joint account. We did that last year, in fact, and it was a mutual discussion between both of us on how we're going to pay for it, but two, where we wanted to go and what we wanted our wedding anniversary trip to look like, or what we even wanted to do. The total cost to stay there, I did the math, it's a little over $2,000. Then, of course, we need the flight there, and we also need spending money. So I have it estimated at about $5,000. Now, of course, I do have some extra research to do on the flights and what we're going to be doing there because we will have baby Dante. The next one is our regular annual Arizona trip for $5,000. I definitely know I'm comfortable with this amount because we've been there. Will be my 6th year going down. And then I want to increase. This is not the total pet fund I want. I want to increase my pet fund by $3,000, which means I want to save a total of $3,000 in December of 2025. Now that, right? So that should be in my budget. That should be in my plan. But I just came up with these this morning. And if you look at my sinking funds, you can see I do have pet. I added it, pet ongoing, $100 a month. And we all know you need to save more than that to get to $3,000. So remember, I'm looking at these goals. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to work in my budget. I'm still going to be working because I still have to work on my January budget, which, by the way, I already prepped as far as getting everything written down and labeled at the top here. Okay, the next thing is medium-term goals within 5 years. I want to increase my emergency fund by another $10,000 with the rise in cost of living and the rise, I feel like, in cost of everything, medical, everything. I would just feel a little more comfortable if within the next, I would say even 2 years, I would increase my emergency fund by $10,000. Now, I already have $30,000 in my emergency fund. And I've talked about my emergency fund before. My emergency fund is not there just to cover my base costs, okay, my bare bones budget, my living expenses. No, for me personally, my emergency fund covers everything that I'm currently paying for. So my quality of life, what I'm doing, does not change at all. It's not just covering, like I said, the bare bones type of expenses. It's covering what my budget is. Now, my budget, if you look at my budget, if we go here to December, if you look at my budget, how much am I spending for my budget every single month? Well, this one has my vacation, so that one doesn't count, but around $6,200 to $7,000 a month. And that's to keep my life going exactly as it is right now. So take that times 3 and you have 3 months worth of expenses, $30,000. I mean, in the scheme of things, when you're looking at that, seems about right. But like I said, I want to increase it, and I want to do that by 2026. Okay. Which means that, remember, look at my plan. In my sinking funds, at least, I don't have it there. So once again, I have to look at how I'm going to be doing this and adding these goals to my budget. The next big one, my long-term goal. Long-term goals, 10 to 15 years. By 2029 or 2030, I'd like to have a new car fund established, $40,000. So that is a lot. I would rather pay for my car outright. I don't want to do any type of financing. I believe if you're going to be buying a car, now this is for me personally, okay? This isn't saying for everybody. I would like to buy that in cash if I can and not finance it. I just believe the interest in everything that you pay for a new car, especially if it's brand new. Now, I'm not going to get a brand new car. I'm going to get a new to me car, but it's like such a depreciating asset. I mean, it loses its value so quickly, which is why people who are paying anywhere between $7,000 to $1,000 a month for their car payment is just a huge, for me, it just really eats up your cash flow. And that's not what I want for my money management or budget. So I'm saving that in a high yield savings account. Now, these are goals that I just sat down and started working out this morning. I highly suggest before the new year comes, one thing you should be doing to prepare for a new year is solidifying what you're trying to accomplish, your goals. The reason being is you want to know exactly where you want to throw your money in the new year, whether you get a bonus, whether you get a tax refund, whether you get a raise at work. Heck, maybe you have some extra discretionary income in your budget. You need to know where you need to throw your dollars, where it matters most to you, where it's going to do the most work and be the most beneficial for you. And that means your goals. You have to know what you want to do and what you want to accomplish with your money. For me, this financial plan mixed in with my sinking funds that I already established in my life, now I have to work them into my budget in January. That's another thing. That's why I started prepping January, is I want to start figuring out what exactly my January budget is going to look like with all of this going on, so I can see what do I have to work with. Now, one of the things that I did want to talk about before I get off this video, now you may see in parentheses here, use PMN plus my paycheck. PMN stands for my other business, Pine Manor Naturals. Now, most of the time, every single cent I make from Pine Manor Naturals goes back into my business. It is fairly successful, but I always feel like there's something I need for the business, mostly supplies. I'm an all natural skincare company. My products the supplies I use for my products outside of what I get from my garden and my property are expensive because I only buy the best quality. And that's really the values I have for that business as far as producing natural skincare. But I decided to make a little bit of a shift. I was kind of going through, okay, what I made. Now, Pine Manor Naturals made almost $45,000 last year, which is huge for a new business, huge. So I thought, okay, how much of that was actual products? So about 50% of that. The rest, so I have $15,000 in a business emergency fund that I established. That's done. That's established. I feel comfortable with that. I'm at a place now with my company. Now, I've been on break. I kind of halted Pine Manor Naturals until January. So I'm going to be out there in the next couple of weeks starting to make soaps for the new year, because I'm going to be back in January with that. I'm going to be using some of that money to fund these trips, these short-term goals here, because coming up with $13,000 in just my discretionary income from my budget is a lot. And in fact, until I can sit down and actually work out my January budget, I just don't know if that's doable with the money I have. So guess what? I'm going to lean on another source of income in my life, which is Pine Manor Naturals. Now, this takes up a lot of my time, because a lot of the income I make is not passive. I have to work in order to make that money, meaning I'm out in the soap shed, I'm packaging, I'm making the soaps, right? So it does eat up. And usually I'm doing that after I put Dante down for bed. But guess what? In January, I also start my full marathon training. That means I'm working out twice a day. I'm doing my weight training, my strength training in the morning, followed by my runs in the evening, or when my husband gets home from work, which is usually around 1 or 2. So I figured I can run right when he gets home, be back by 3:30, 4 o'clock, depending on how long my runs are, be back, get Dante down for bed, and then go out to the soap shed. It's going to make a very long night. I just have to work this out, right? This is part of what planning is. So that's what I have going on for my Monday morning routine.